I met William Bennett, better known as Willy the Whale Whisperer, in 2008 at a dowsing conference. I was able to attend a talk of his where he um, exhibited video and audio of whales and the whale songs. And it was just joyful and wonderful, just like William Bennett. And if you've never met Willy the Whale Whisperer, he works with binary telepathy, which he teaches, and he can teach you to communicate with whales. So I will let William Bennett, Willy the Whale Whisperer, tell us his story through this interview. I hope you enjoy it. Okay, Willy the Whale Whisperer, so delighted to have you on this show of the Wisdom Keepers. And I want to give people a little background on you before we chat. You're known on Maui, the island in Hawaii, as Willy the Whale Whisperer. And originally you were an aerospace engineer who was on the Hubble Space Telescope design team. And you decided somewhere along the line that was a little bit more to life than this left brain thinking. And you decided to explore other possibilities with an open mind. And you stumbled across dowsing in Santa Cruz. Is that correct? Was it at one of the conferences there at the West Coast, or?
No, it was a breakfast meeting called the Healing Connection.
Oh, and that was in 1988. So,
right.
Okay. And then you ended up learning about dowsing there. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And then how to communicate with animals and plants. Did you learn that from them as well, or?
No, I developed that on my own.
Oh, okay. Yes. And I want to discuss that with you. The binary telepathy that you've you founded, or developed, I should say. So I know you use dowsing to improve your health and the environment, and you like to teach with your partner, Terry, who's also a certified coach, I hear. So please tell us how you first got into this. I know we talked about this healing group that you went to. What made you decide to go there in Santa Cruz?
Actually, I was in a multi-level company at that time, selling some herbs that were really helping me and Terry, really improved our health. But they were expensive. So I was looking for a way to figure out what herbs are best for myself and other people. And so I saw this guy at the Healing Connection get up in front of us with these silly rods, L-rod things. And he kept measuring the field, the size of the energy field around people. And I said, that guy's just making those things move. That couldn't be real. But I thought, well, wait a minute, though. Wow, if that's true, if that really works, I could use that to figure out how good supplements are for me. So I went to his house that weekend, and he showed me how to do it, and I tried it, and it worked. And so I started measuring my own energy field and measuring other people's energy field with things, and it worked really well. So
your dowsing brought you to your health concept, brought you to dowsing,
right?
Wanting to be healthier, wanting to find supplements that worked for you and Terry. And I find that oftentimes that's how people get into it, is there's something they're needing. They're, for themselves, there's something they want to be able to measure and take care of for themselves and their own health. So was your family, anyone in your family dowsers or anything like that? Or you're the one, you just started?
No, I'm quite different than the rest of my family.
Oh, okay. That's the case with most of us, yes?
Yeah.
A lot of us.
I've had to create a ohana, or here on Maui, really, that believes the same things I do, to to really get into the spiritual direction that I've gone right now.
So what led you to whales?
Actually, it was a class I took because after I developed this dowsing method, which I hadn't seen anyone else use before, I took a class in supposed to be time management. It turned out to be goal setting. So I set a bunch of goals for myself, like becoming a millionaire, having my spirituality better than Christ, and the usual ones. But the one that came out on top was learning to communicate with whales. I thought, where did that come from? I don't know. But so then I made up a plan of how to go swim with the dolphins first and then go to Hawaii and see if I could communicate with the whales. And in actually about 2 weeks later, a whale washed up on a beach here in Santa Cruz. There in Santa Cruz. And I said, okay, now how do I communicate with them? Because they'd taken him into a tank at Long Marine Lab and were trying to keep it healthy and get it back in the ocean. But I'd been taking a muscle testing class, and we were testing our health doing that. And I thought, wonder if this dowsing would work for this. Except, how do I go and see if at Long Marine Lab, see if I can get in the water and swim and measure the energy field around the whale? It just didn't think that was going to work. So I said, but I've heard that we're all connected and that people who can see auras can see it on a picture of a person. I thought that might work with this dowsing. So I drew a picture of the whale and put it on the wall and walked towards it to measure its energy field. And the rods opened up about 7 feet away, just like they do with people. I started asking questions and checking out all of his organs. And some of the organs, the field shrank when I talked about it and asked him about it. And I said, wow, this looks like the pattern of a sick whale. I think this is working. In fact, that means that we are all connected. So that's how the whales have been teaching me so much, just by leading me in directions where I can try things and see if they work or not. That's the fun thing about dowsing is you can try something. If it doesn't work, okay, well, I'll try it differently.
Were you able to help that whale in particular, or give information, or that was just a learning part of your learning process there?
No, I was able to help the whale. Yeah. I even gave my information to the scientist in charge of the whale. Going into his office, I didn't think he'd believe this, but I showed him what I was doing and all my weeks of data, and he said, wow, he says, this is a lot more information than we're getting with the blood tests we take every once in a while. So I was really surprised. I was hesitant to go in because who am I? He's a famous scientist. And the funny thing is, his name was Dr. Worthy.
Oh.
So I kind of helped my self-worth a little bit.
A little bit.
When he liked it. So he couldn't really tell anybody he was getting information from a dowser in that community, but he did, when the project was over, he did say, of all the people that helped him, I was at the bottom, it said, and others.
Oh, that's nice. At least he gave you a little acknowledgement. And for him to open up to that was very helpful for the whale as well. So had he not taken your information in, he might not have been able to help the whale in the way that he could. So being open to these things is part of learning, being.
That is so powerful. Not believing it on blind faith, but just saying, oh, I don't believe that maybe, but I'll try it, just being open.
Yes.
And after that experience, I started teaching the dowsing, and I find that my background as an aerospace engineer going into this, which is really a spiritual practice here, is measuring the energy field of whales and learning from them. It's easy to explain it in terms that people like me, engineers, accountants, scientists would understand. Like, that's why I call dowsing binary telepathy, because you are getting telepathy from the whales or animals or plants, but it's in a binary method, yes and no. Ones and zeros, and you can get numbers too. So it's kind of like a computer. And
that speaks to the left brainers out there. I love it.
Right.
Right. I just love that. Widening the audience, widening the option for participation, and being able to speak a language where others can understand. If you had said to me binary ones and zeros, I would have thought, what? For me, because I don't come from that background, but it makes perfect sense to enfold that group of people and invite them to participate. I love that.
And I teach with Terry Mister because she has a background of searching for how to love herself better and she's right on the leading edge of spiritual thought right now.
Oh, that's lovely. Lovely.
And I'm following behind her with it.
Well, I'm sure the whales have taught you something about self-love.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they've taught me so much. Yeah, it's just, well, the self-love thing, that's been mostly just my inner reflections and realizing, and I found out, oh, gee, I think I'm not good enough, and that comes up a lot. That's a programming in the human consciousness. And, oh, that doesn't jibe with loving myself.
Yes. What are the whales? So have you asked the whales about this? Because I know you speak with them. I mean, your website is askawhale.com. So have you ever asked the whales about what that means? Or is it just a human thing and the whales don't even have anything like that?
Well, I'm checking in with them. No, I haven't done that, but I'm checking in with them right now. And they can't understand what I'm talking about.
So it's just a human program about not loving ourselves. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like when I ask them about politics or money or things like that.
They're like, whatever.
Yeah.
We don't
not
understand.
Loving themselves? No, yeah. they don't understand that.
Do you have any particular stories about whales that you've spoken to where you had aha moments where it really expanded your consciousness in talking with a whale? That you had a direct experience with them that gave you pause to think, wow, if I could be more like that, or if I could feel, that sense of trust or faith or freedom.
Well, mostly it's, they've been helping me understand that this connection I have with them is real. And that was challenging for this engineer here. There was all logic brained, and when my intuition would raise its ugly head, I'd stamp it into the ground. That's kind of where I came from. So this whale, Kogi, his name was, I had been working remotely with him. And then finally, at one point, I got to be on the team that was watching him at night. So I went down during the day and sat down by the pool where he was, because I was going to learn what to do to watch him at night. And he was at the other end of the pool with his head up on the side, being checked out by the by a doctor, animal doctor, and his scientist, Dr. Worthy. And he just slipped out away from them and came over straight at me and looked at me from the edge of the pool. And I felt this wave of energy come from him saying, "Hey, please help me. They're not going to let me go." And then Dr. Worthy said, "Oh, Bill, would you please leave for a little while? You're interrupting our experiment, our test here." And so I went out to my car and sat down and just started crying. So I've been playing with this whale with this rods and having so much fun. And oh my God, this was real. It just was really, it just blew my mind. And so, yeah, that was a wonderful experience.
Those heartfelt moments are, when they touch our heart like that, it just, there's such an expansion that takes place. Tears come and there, we feel the love, I think.
Yeah, and this engineer crying was a big deal, expressing emotions.
Sitting in your car by yourself. Aw.
Yeah, I've been taught all my life to not express emotions, especially anger, and this is just such a wonderful experience.
Oh, so Kogi taught you a lot.
Oh yeah, I'm writing a book, and there's, I don't know, maybe 14 chapters, and every one has something that I learned from the animals, not only whales, but mountain lions and dolphins and all kinds of animals.
And also you speak with plants. So tell me how that came about as well.
Well, I read the book, The Secret Life of Plants, and that was the first thing I actually communicated with was trees. And I did it by just walking towards the tree and asking to see its energy field. And then I said, okay, if something's not good for you, show me your energy field. And the field shrank. So it's just like muscle testing. When you're muscle testing supplements or something, someone holds their arm out and you push on it. And if something's good for you that you're holding, you're strong. If it's not, you get weak. Well, your field is moving in and out at the same time. So I just started asking trees questions, and I'd ask how old they were and just keep trying different numbers until I got a no. And it was kind of reasonable numbers, you know. And I asked one redwood tree, what do you think about fire? Because the fire burns all the other trees down, but not them. And all of a sudden her energy field disappeared. I couldn't get anything out of it. And finally I realized, oh, plants are in real time. They don't have a past and a future. They're only now. So they thought I was saying there was a fire.
Oh.
And so I finally had to talk to her and say, oh, I'm sorry, there's not a fire. It's okay. You know, there's no fire. I finally got her to get her energy field back up so I could talk to her.
That is really interesting. So that is really interesting. No past, no future, just the present time. If you mention fire, they're like, oh, where? Pull it in, right? Yeah.
Right.
That is just amazing. I'm going to be talking to my plants in a whole new way now. You know, like my orange tree is struggling. I'm going to have to start talking to it about what's happening in the present moment. That is fascinating. Mm-hmm. I'm just so excited to speak with you. So what inspires you to continue this search? I mean, what's happening that you want to continue learning and growing with these whales and other creatures, your dolphins? And you'll have to excuse me, I got a teary for a moment when you when you're talking about your heart. I got tears. Okay, I'm back.
Well, interestingly, I've just been going out and playing with the whales and using the dowsing for supplements and for my health. One thing I realized, two things actually. One was, hey, I can talk to whales. I can actually also talk to parts of my body. So I start having communications with my feet, my heart, anything, and just douse how good they are doing, 0 to 100%, and talk to them. And also, oh, by the way, I started with dowsing, but as I did more and more dowsing, it wasn't very long where I started receiving messages telepathically from the whales and plants and things. So, so I can just focus on part of my body and listen and see what it has to say.
That's wonderful. So it's an organ dialogue, I like to call it. Have a little dialogue with my organs. How's my liver? How's my heart?
Well, it's not only parts of your body. Everything is made out of energy. So everything is basically alive. So I can talk to my car or my boat and ask it what's going on. Why aren't you running? And
oh my goodness.
And you can use dowsing to get answers from anything, even a rock. Although I had trouble with that at first until a Native American friend of mine, Eagle Hawk, I think that was his name, said, well, rocks are kind of slow. And just with that in mind, I was able to get yes and no answers from the rocks finally.
So do you find that you have to adjust your frequency to that which you're speaking? Is there a conscious concept of I'm going to slow down, I'm going to speed up, or you just wait for a response? You just ask and then you wait. What's your process?
Yeah, ask and wait, right? Because I was taking people out to see the whales, and the one person on the boat asked me, okay, why do whales breach, jump out of the water? I said, I don't know, I'll ask them. So I didn't get an answer, so I just waited and went about my thing, what I was doing, and 5 minutes later, I saw a video start running in my mind. And it was a picture of a whale singing down 100 feet down or so. And then he started to come up and came up and breached out of the water in a celebration of such a perfect song.
Oh my, that's so exciting.
So I told them about that, but that's not the only reason they do that. But so that
they
was,
breach out of joy. They probably breach out of communication, right? You communicate with other whales by breaching.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I was just dowsing that. I use muscle testing to get yes and no answers.
So when did you leave your rods behind? Do you ever use rods anymore now? Or do you just muscle test now?
I use muscle testing. It took me about a year to get that to work because the dowsing rods are kind of one step removed from the answer. Because I'm asking a question and then I kind of forget about the question and just measure the energy field of whatever I'm working with. So it's a little easier to be objective about it and really tuned into the higher self, the me self of myself and the animal or plant.
How did you practice that?
Well, whenever I had a feeling that I'm not getting the right answers with the muscle testing, I check it with the dowsing rods.
Ah.
Or lately, I've just been saying, Terry, I don't think this is working. Could you test it? Or I found I could have my higher self, whose name is Tom, do the dowsing for me. So I say, okay, Tom, I'll put you in my fingers in my circuit and give me the answer. Is this cake really good for me? I'm dowsing, it's okay. And he said, no. And it turns out the candida in me was controlling my dowsing.
Oh, that's really interesting. I had never thought about it that way, that a bacteria or a virus would control dowsing before in the body.
Well, yeah, that happened. And in fact, I use muscle testing that way to talk to a whale. Like I just put my whale pet Kogi in my circuit and check, am I a whale? Yes. Am I a person? Do I have feet? Do I have a tail? Yeah. So now I can talk to her. Are you north of 40 north, 50 north, 60, 51, 52, 50? Oh, are you off the coast of Sitka? Yeah. So she's off of Alaska, eating up there.
So Kogi, this is the same Kogi?
Well, yeah, he died and came back into life, and I followed him to his new life.
So Kogi came back as a female humpback.
Yeah, before he was a pygmy sperm whale, which is kind of a old design, and that's this humpback whale he felt a step up in consciousness.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yeah, it's a more modern design too.
How fascinating that he chose that. So the pygmy sperm whales that are still existing today, we still have them, right?
Right.
They're not on the endangered list. We still...
They might be. They don't know too much about them because they live mostly in the open ocean.
I see. So for that Kogi to have beached himself was a pretty fascinating learning experience for you. Did you ever think about how that might have been sort of a bigger plan?
Bigger plan?
Where you got to learn about whales through Kogi, the pygmy whale, at that time.
This whole learning about dowsing has been very synchronistic. It's just one thing after another. Like this Kogi died, and I said, I heard on the news actually that Kogi had died, even though I was trying to help. He finally decided to die, and so I said, I wonder if this whale is in my living room here, or because I doused the picture and the field was a lot less, but I could still get an energy field. So I said, are you in my living room? And the answer was no. He said, I was at Marine World Africa, USA, where I died. I'm waiting for my new body. And I didn't believe in reincarnation. I started thinking about it. He sure did. He knew he was going to come back. And I said, well, gosh, that's kind of a nice idea to say I can come back as something else rather than I just go to heaven, which is, I don't know how to describe what the heck that is. But I guess, so I've kind of developed that. Yeah, I think it's great. So I get to choose what I come back as. And I found out I was a whale in a previous life, actually a sperm whale, the big one. So I might be a dog in my next life. I don't know.
You never know.
Love,
Yeah, you just never know. So so the second Kogi, the reincarnated Kogi, who is now a humpback. Is that right?
She's
humpback whale.
She's a humpback whale, and
she comes to Maui, and then she's in her migration.
Mm-hmm. And I've seen her twice, I think, but she's not a huggy-feely type whale. She likes to work remotely.
Oh.
And the whales mostly communicate that way. Like they'll have a pod of 100 whales that are connected as a group, and they communicate telepathically. So all the animals and plants and everything know that we're connected as one. We're all source, we're all God, and they communicate that way. And the humans do too, but we don't realize it. Have names for it, like body language and synchronicities and stuff. So
coincidences.
Coincidences, yeah. So I just love learning from the whales and teachers like Rika Zimmerman that I'm working with right now, and especially Terry Mister. She's just spent 35 years with me, and we've been friends that long and just learning all this together. And she's just an incredible spiritual teacher. Wow. So it works together really well when we teach together, because I have the logical side and the dowsing, and I taught her how to douse, and she's got the spiritual depth that really makes it all applicable to our lives. So.
Yes. When did you decide you were going to live in Maui full time? Was this driven by the idea of the marine mammal connection, or you just, because I know you were a mainlander first, right? Mm-hmm. And then now you're permanently living on the islands here.
Yeah, I've been here 29 years, if you count everything. I moved here with my wife and kid in the 70s, 1975, but Maui threw me out after 3 years. And back to California I went, and 16 years later, Terry had moved over here, and she called me up one day and said, "Hey, Willie, get over here. I know you want to come back." And I said, "Okay." And 3 weeks later, I was here on Maui, because I was talking to the whales there in California and Santa Cruz, but I really wanted to be here with the humpbacks. So.
Is there any particular message that the humpbacks really want us to know?
Yeah, there is actually. A baby whale taught me that I was windsurfing once off of Kihei here where I live, and I said, "Okay, whales, I'd like to talk to you, but I can't use my dowsing rods. I'm holding the windsurfer sail, and I can't use muscle testing, so we're going to have to use telepathy today. Does anybody want to talk to me?" And I kind of, in my mind's eye, saw a baby whale raise its flipper and say, "I do." And I said, "Okay, what do you want to talk about? Humans killing whales, or too much sound in undersea, or what's really important to you?" And all of a sudden I had this feeling of overwhelming joy. Just so wonderful to be in this beautiful climate and this wonderful day. I thought, oh, that's funny that I had that feeling. That couldn't be from the whales. And the baby whale surfaced right in front of the boat, my windsurfer.
Oh.
So I sat down and said, "Okay, I give up. I'll be joyful."
Well, that goes back to living in the moment, the present. There's no past, there's no future. It's the now. It's the joy of the now.
Good point. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that.
It really feels like they're really driving home. Wow, today is a miracle. Today I'm joyful. I don't think they have any other. I mean, have you come across a whale that said, "Wow, I'm really bummed out today"?
No. They always, all the answers, I'll ask them complicated questions and they'll say, "Isn't it a beautiful day? I'm going to jump for joy."
Oh, that is worth its weight in teaching right there. being in the present and being joyful all the time.
Yeah.
I had a really special moment with you, gosh, back in, I think it was 2000 and could have been 14 or earlier, where I met you at a dowsing conference, and we were talking about whales, and I said, you know, I'm a little, like, I'm hesitant, or I'm afraid. There's something in me when I think about a whale, I get fearful. And you had and we had talked a little bit about it, and you had said, oh, well, you were a whale in, you know, not this last lifetime, but the lifetime before, or it might have been just this last lifetime.
Yeah.
And I feel that, and I figured out why I was in such fear. And I had a memory of being captured and killed as a whale. And I remember, my pod saying, "Just go with it." And I remember thinking to out loud to myself as a whale, saying, if they just asked, I would have given myself for whatever they needed, whether it was the blubber or the oil or whatever they needed at the time. I would have gladly given it if they hadn't just taken it, you know. If they would have just honored the idea of it. And it brought me back to this profound moment of honoring everything, living in reverence. If we're meat eaters, do we honor that? If we're plant eaters, do we honor the plants? Do we honor the fish? How do we live in a reverent state of joy?
That's beautiful. And I had not gotten that out of that. What is really, I find intriguing to me, is people get different answers from the whales or plants or anything else, depending on what they need to learn.
Well, that to me was a big learning experience.
Yeah.
And even now when I think about a whale, you know, and I see a giant eye in front of me, I kind of shudder. Like, oh my gosh, they're so big, you know. Well, I was actually one. So
yeah. Well, I have them come up close to the boat a lot, and they're just so gentle. You know, they're big though. I mean, had one come under my 20-foot boat, and one fin was off the one end of the boat, and the other off, or the side. Yeah, one end of the boat, the other off the other end of the boat, and the water was totally black beneath it. They're big. They're big, but very gentle.
I remember I took a whale watching trip in Maui, and with the Whale Society, and they said, imagine a school bus giving birth to a dump truck.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh my gosh, that'll give you some scale right there. It was really joyful. And then we got to hear them sing. And I did attend a class of yours where you dropped a microphone, and the very first lecture I ever heard from you, I think, was in 2008 at West Coast, and you played sounds, and I just was enraptured. It was just beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for doing that and sparking that within me and within the others in the class. There was so much joy involved, and just awe-inspiring, really. Thank you. Thank you for what you do, and thank you for the communication. And if anyone out there wants to ask a whale question, go to Willy's website, askawhale.com, and he will be happy to transmute that for you. Are you doing that now? I know it's easy to do telepathy with the whales. Are you still actively taking questions on your website?
Well, it hasn't actually been working that well, and I just got it fixed up a few weeks ago. So, I haven't gotten many questions lately, but I'd love to have more questions.
Oh, okay.
And then we're also going to start teaching our classes again, which we taught 30 years ago, and now we're going to do it again because we feel it's time to really get these messages out that we have, because you can use dowsing for so many things, your health. And we do things like douse how well different parts of your environment are, like EMFs and poisons and air and everything. And then say, okay, now say a prayer that everything is good for you, and then douse again.
Yes.
So if you use prayer in combination with before to check and see if it worked, that's very powerful.
I have learned that recently. Blessings, blessing everything, blessing with gratitude. Yes, absolutely. Well, I am inspired by you. I'm grateful that you took the time to chat with me today and talk to us a little bit about your background, where you came from, how you got to this magnificent point of telepathy with plants and animals in your body and whales. I am just delighted. So where are they right now? Because I know we're in Hawaii. When are the whales coming back? November?
They start coming around, well, the first one's at the end of August. They start coming in November, and you can go whale watching and see them about December 15th. And they're here till about Easter time in April.
And do they come from Alaska? Or because I've seen whale patterns. I just wanted to ask this real quick. Whale patterns, where do our whales that come to Hawaii actually come from?
Well, most of the 8 that I've dowsed came from the Sitka area in Alaska. Okay. So I think most of them do come from Alaska, some from Russia, and they either come down here or they'll go down to Mexico from there, or farther west. They don't like Japan too well because they tend to get killed over there. Or they used to, but they come down to different places that they like.
Okay. Wow.
So, and the peak is the middle of February.
Okay, wonderful.
That's when they're all here. They each come for about 6 weeks. And the moms have their babies, and they have to take 2 or 3 weeks for the baby to get big enough to make the trip back up.
Yes.
But they're all here in the middle of February.
Oh, that's fantastic. Well, thank you again. Hold on one second. I'm just delighted to have you again, Willy. Thank you. You can visit Willy's website, askawhale.com, and you can sign up for classes that he'll have, he and Terry together, or you can ask a question of a whale and you'll get a response.